It's the morning of Wednesday the 18th of October. It's been a month since the artist Gillian Waring was given the green light for a new statue in Parliament Square, a depiction of the suffragist Millicent Garrett Fawcett, the first statue of a woman to stand in the famous square. Gillian's original design will be recreated in bronze by dozens of sculptors and artists over many months. The original model depicts Fawcett at age 50, the year the National Union of Women's Suffrage Societies was founded. Created using groundbreaking techniques by using 3D printing to first create a maquette, the statue will have Fawcett holding one of her famous protest signs, sitting atop a stone plinth with the names and etchings of 59 other women and men who played a key part in the fight for universal suffrage. The challenge for the sculptors is to turn the original small design maquette into a statue that will become a permanent feature of one of London's key historic areas. Waring has set an ambitious goal, an 8-foot statue that accurately captures Fawcett and the clothes she wore in incredible detail, taking inspiration from images captured in the early days of photography. This means painstaking work for the sculptors, who need to create a large, robust statue without losing the detail, which can be as fine as the threads on Fawcett's coat. The first test comes for the workers at MDM Props warehouse in East London. Famous for making giant sculptures for film and theatre, the warehouse has been hard at work recreating the detail of Waring's original maquette on a much larger scale.
It's going to be there for hundreds of years. So when you're dead and gone, it'll still be there and it will still have meaning.
MDM are creating a series of moulds which can eventually be sent to a bronze foundry. They have to start by creating all of the constituent parts. Her head, hands, dress and even feet are sculpted by artists working to Waring's exact specifications. Each artist takes their responsibility incredibly seriously. The sculptor responsible for Fawcett's shoes, which will be mostly covered by her dress, has spent hundreds of hours researching boots from the late 1800s and creating a lifelike replica out of clay. "3D printing is then used to produce accurate models, which are then worked on for even finer detail. While all statues try to accurately depict their subjects, none are as ambitious in their detail. Even Fawcett's coat has to be painstakingly worked on with tiny tools to gain the desired effect, a lifelike 19th century coat with grooves for its tartan pattern. It's work that takes many, many weeks. After a few months, the team have created a model of the statue that Waring is happy with, and they can start prepping for the next stage, a perfect mould that will withstand the rough work it will need to endure. During this process, one of the biggest challenges is still being tackled: how to effectively replicate the fabric banner the statue of Millicent Fawcett will hold.
So the actual production and sewing of the banner has been a lot of working out with Gillian about what it is exactly she wants and the style of the lettering and the style of the fabric, the fabrics and the stitching. But actually trying to figure out then how to mould it is very difficult because it's a big, thin fabric, soft object. Somehow we have to stiffen the fabric up without ruining the textures and the surfaces of the fabric.
Harriet's been experimenting with different fabrics and sewing techniques. She wants something that will show off the lettering while looking like fabric, made only using methods that were available during Fawcett's era. Once the design has been agreed, the team will recreate it with a flexible solid mould before it is cast into bronze. At the start of 2018, the making of the statue was handed over to the AB Fine Art Foundry in Poplar. The foundry dates back to 1992 and has worked with some of the most famous artists of the 21st century. Chloe Hughes is leading the project.
This is the mould shop. Over here we've got the moulds that arrived from MDM. These sections. It's part of the Millicent's torso. The mould arrives and then we paint a wax into it, which is what these sections sections are that Des and Ellie are working on. This is part of the skirt.
The statue maquette has been scaled up and the mould created. Now it's the foundry's job to prepare it to be cast in bronze. The first stage is pouring and painting wax. The statue has been broken up into arms, legs, the body and the head, and each section is carefully coated so it reproduces the texture accurately. Once the wax has cooled, the original mould is removed, leaving a hollow wax replica of the original sculpture. Then, a system of wax tubes called sprues are attached to the wax model to create channels thick enough for molten bronze to flow through. The wax replica is then dipped in ceramic. Several layers have to be added and dried in a temperature-controlled fridge to ensure a thick shell. The wax is melted out and the ceramic shell is fired in the kiln at a temperature of almost 1,000 degrees for 1 hour, until it can withstand the heat of the molten bronze. Once they've been fired, the ceramic moulds are left to cool to a temperature where people can handle them, around 300 degrees, then lowered into sand to keep them steady, and the team can start to pour in the bronze. It's dangerous work. The metal has been heated to 1,200 degrees. One slip and someone will get seriously hurt. Not only that, but if dropped, the molten metal can explode. Once poured, the bronze is left to cool for the next stage. Foundry staff now have to knock the bronze out of the ceramic shells. Once they're out, they have to clean them up either with chemicals or by sandblasting. This will ensure all of the ceramic is removed without damaging the bronze. The sprues are removed from the outer shell and the welding begins. As the statue has been cast in several different parts, it must now be welded together strongly enough to stand in Parliament Square for hundreds of years. One difficulty comes in welding the pattern on Fawcett's clothing. It's slow and painstaking work. Using a welding torch and wire matching the metal of the statue, the pieces are melted together. The welder then has to replicate the pattern using a range of tools to fit the work. While this is happening, another member of the team is working on one of the most difficult parts. The banner has been turned from its original cloth into a bronze sheet. The craftsman has to replicate the original design by hammering the metal to bend and perforate it so that it looks like cloth. After this is done, the metal will have to be properly coloured so it has a uniform look. This is done by using chemicals which react to the metal to create a variety of different colours. It will then be dipped in wax to seal the surface colour, after which it will be buffed to a high polish.
But it's great, this.
6 months after the statue was given planning permission, the Mayor of London, Sadiq and Deputy Mayor Justine Simons are visiting the foundry to inspect the statue. They're joined by Gillian Waring and Caroline Criado Perez, the journalist and activist who originally campaigned for the statue.
I've got to be honest, when I first saw Millicent unfinished, it was like, wow. I mean, she will be standing next to great men, and it's right and proper that we celebrate and commemorate great women as well. And it's important that in Parliament Square, outside our Parliament, people call it the mother of all parliaments, we recognise that our country was built on the shoulders not just of great men, but great women as well. And it's about time we saw a great woman celebrated on Parliament Square.
A part of you has to believe that it's going to happen. But then there's also the part of how am I going to get a statue in Parliament Square? There's so many hurdles to get over. So it feels amazing. I mean, I actually started crying earlier, listening to Sadiq talking about it and what it meant and what it represented, and just realising, wow, it's really going to happen. It just felt incredible.
Having been involved in it from more or less the start, chairing the commission, putting out a brief to artists, looking at samples, looking at pieces of bronze, looking at shoes, looking at 3D printed models, the extraordinary attention to detail and thought that has gone into this statue, and to see it all kind of taking shape today, it's just an amazing moment.
It's April, the day of the statue's unveiling. It's been a month since it was seen by the artist and the mayor, and the world's press are here to witness a historic day. The first time the statues of Parliament Square are no longer a boys' club.
Less than 3% of British statues feature a woman who actually existed. With this statue of Millicent Fawcett, the first statue of a woman, and the first statue by a woman in this iconic location, we're making one hell of a start on changing that.
Things done are won. Joy's soul lies in the doing.
I would not be standing here today as Prime Minister. No female MPs would have taken their seats in Parliament were it not for one truly great woman, Dame Millicent Garrett Fawcett.
Let this unveiling be a moment where we all commit to ensuring that the achievements of women throughout our history are never forgotten. Commit to breaking down the barriers that still exist to women reaching their potential, and commit to standing on the shoulders of the giants that came before us, like Millicent Fawcett, and carrying on their mission to make this country a more just, fair, and equal place for all.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.